I'm here today to present Samurai of the West. Okay, I'm a pen tester. Who here is a pen tester? Put hands up in the air. It's all good to see there's some pen testers in the house. What's your flavour? So, do you do external, internal, infrastructure, social engineering? Do you do red teaming? Do you do web application? Do you do mobile apps? What do you test? So let's throw it out there. So anyone put their hands up? Tell me any particular area that they preference or they do. Silence. Oh, there you go. SE. SE. Thank you. I like SE. But right. Anyone else want to say anything? Any particular flavour they do? Go on here.
Web application.
Hey, there we go. These are single flavours. Okay. Who am I? My name is Neil Lyons. I'm a pen tester. I'm involved in a wide range of security testing. Social engineering is my favourite. Someone mentioned earlier to me that this is the same talk that you've seen at B-Sides. I talk at conferences and I do 60% at least, sometimes 70% fresh stuff. So yes, some of you may have seen this slide before. It does not mean this is the same talk. I work for Netitude. Team Netitude. Are there any Netitude people in the house today? 50% of you. SC, how do you fill the room? Bring your teammates. Right, previously. Okay, so I tweeted, not rubbish. I tweeted recently about the DA trilogy. How did this begin? I assigned to conferences and they accepted me, and I thought I need to have different stuff. And as it happens, there was 3 conferences I was really interested in. B-Sides and here, it was B-Sides Edinburgh and B-Sides London. And I thought, well, let's break up this talk and do a section per conference. So, how did it start though? It started with me, Rob Maslin and Ben Turner flying off to Scotland. Anyone who knows me would know that I absolutely test flying, which is why I had to be chaperoned, can't say the word, just to get me on the flight. This is what I presented in Edinburgh. I still think we're at war. It's a hard subject to say out loud, but if you have a look at what's going on out there, you'll realise that we're continuously being attacked in really, really aggressive ways. Is it very sophisticated, savvy? No, I'm not so sure. People talk about 0 days and nation states as being the most elite people out there in the world ever. If you actually research nation states for a bit, you'll start to realise that they're just like a good old credential harvester. I mentioned medical companies and records, governments, manufacturing, energy companies, banking. These are the areas that nation states attacks are looking at. This is what they're interested in. I talked about forgetting 0 days. You have to remember this was before Eternal Blue, MS-17-010. At that point, leading up to that, there were obviously very good 0 days flowing around. But what I was actually getting at with this slide, you've got to start thinking more as a nation-state attack. They're not interested in leaks. They're more interested in, can I just turn your country off? Can I cause you maximum impact? Can I get access to your power supplies? Can I disrupt your country? Can I stop your aeroplanes? Can I stop your hospitals? And then I discussed this. Did North Korea really hack Sony? And then I said this, about 98 days, it takes people normally after a breach to realise they've been breached. And then I said this, on average during a test on a remote social engineering engagement, once I get access in, it typically takes myself and my colleagues anywhere between 30 minutes to 4 hours. I chat to my colleagues about techniques all the time, and one of them said something to me very amusingly recently about UNC, that he has had a couple of times reversed the hash which he's stolen, and it's a domain admin. So without even getting access into an internal network, within a matter of sort of 5 to 10 minutes, he's a domain admin. It's quite scary. And that is the summarisation or summarise of that talk. Then I went to B-Sides London and I spoke about this, Enemies of the West. Again, I spoke about nation states, it's what interests me, and at this point I added another section to it, politicians, because at this point suddenly it became quite apparent in the media that politicians were getting very, very much attacked. And then I mentioned that. Are nation states dangerous? Well, they can make you lose an election. March 15th, AP28 were, IP addresses connected to them were seen registering domain names for the French, connected to the French president and the French election. So nation states do like to meddle in an election. And then obviously this came out. You can't see it very well there, but this is Eternal Blue. And wow, everything sort of changed again overnight. It was like MS-08, 67, all over again. And this happened. And we were like, whoa, what the hell happened? Because people will say, like, it came out, put it out, and it was all on Twitter, and people going, what's going to be the impact, what's going to be the impact? Well, that was the impact. Now, I have seen newspapers, I'm tripping over, I've seen newspapers discuss cybercrime, nation-state attacks. I haven't normally seen them put it on the front page. Not only have I not seen them put it on the front page, I haven't seen all the newspapers put it on the front page. It was quite a changing moment. And then I concluded with this: emails are mightier than the sword. Right, and now part 3, Samurai of the West. So, what is the connections between everything I chatted about previously and with regards to sort of nation states? And I think I kind of said it earlier, I don't think that a lot of them are as elite as we make out. It's a lot of credential harvesting, but they'll use multi-techniques. So, they don't use a single flavour. This is kind of why I asked at the start, pen testing, what do? Do you do infrastructure? Do you do web app? Well, a real attacker isn't going to do that. They're not going to go, that's a web application, I don't know about web apps, I'm going to give up. They're not going to hand it to another colleague. They're not going to do it. They're going to either find someone they know, they're going to Google it, or they're going to have a bash themselves. And they're going to look for the low-hanging fruit. Now, the low-hanging fruit historically does seem to be credential harvesting. They like a good Google clone, it seems. It seems to work very, very well. If anyone says it doesn't work, well, ask Hillary Clinton whether it works. It definitely works. So, they will do whatever it takes to get access in. Right, case 1. I've spoken a lot in my previous talks about attacking, and I've shown people step by step how you attack, how you attack, how you attack. If anyone's interested, it's all on YouTube. I never really did backstories, and Vince and Don today did an incredible talk, and they mentioned reconnaissance, which kind of did make me think, oh crap, that's what I was going to be talking about. But I think it's time that in one of my talks I do have a little mention about reconnaissance and what I do when I'm on a test. So, starting off here, LinkedIn. We scrape email addresses. Who went to the red teaming talk this morning? Obviously. Right, quite lovely. So I won't go on too quick. I'll skip over this quite quickly. But LinkedIn used to be an incredible place to scrape email addresses from. There was lots of automated tools that would do it for you. You could just give it a target, and 5 or 10 minutes later, it would pipe out a load of email addresses, people's names, positions in the work, that kind of structure. It was all very, very good. And then my friend came up with something called Prowl, which made it really, really, really good. And I used to use this on tests, and basically you just give it a domain name and it would pipe out everything. So the target's got 3,000 people in it. 5, 10 minutes later, you'd have at least 600 to 2,000 email addresses. And then Microsoft bought LinkedIn, and it stopped working. And Microsoft sent very, very aggressive letters to people, emails, not letters, not back in the 40s, whatever. They sent emails, really aggressive emails to people, really scary ones. So one of my friends received one, and it was a case of, if you log into LinkedIn and use your tool, we will sue you. You are not allowed to use our service for recruitment for finding people to find people. How dare you? So a lot of people got scared, and his tool got buried. He initially didn't have to log in. I should reword this. You used to be able to just scrape LinkedIn cleanly from the internet, and you didn't have to log in, because now when you log in, when you go to a LinkedIn profile, it shows you a login portal, and it's really hard to get around that. And if you go to 2 or 3, you definitely get a login portal, and you can no longer automate this. Now, to get around that, people started using APIs and ways to authenticate with the application to get past that bit, and that was when Microsoft sent out threatening letters. So it all stopped, and all these tools broke. So, how can you get around this? And for quite a long time, now I know Vince today and Don released a tool that can do this, and it looked very, very interesting. My friend was very, very quickly Googling it, and he asked you a question, when's it going to be released? Is it out now? But to get around this, I'm not ashamed to say it, I'm quite proud to say it. I went back to the drawing board, and a lot of us did, and thought, how can we do this? How can we still get good email addresses for targets? So, we went back to classic old Google hacks. Now, it's not rocket science, but it's incredible. If you do at Microsoft, because on LinkedIn people will say, my name is so-and-so, I work at Microsoft. So you could use any domain you're targeting with this kind of structure. And I've used this just because it was just easy to use as an example. And if you put a space and put site, blah, 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 LinkedIn, you get that. Now you can see there, name, works at LinkedIn, not LinkedIn, works at Microsoft, there you go, services, marketing and services at Microsoft, and we've got the name. So what we would then do is we would then manually go off and we would correlate all these, we would collate all of these, and then with a script, quickly populate a way into what looks like a legitimate email format. Anyway, it's good, but it's good to know how to do it, but it's a bit manual. But then I was interested to know, could we get better? Could we do more with this? Because it is quite powerful. So then I did account manager at Microsoft. And there you go, it finds all the account managers at Microsoft. It's like 300 pages of this. So if you wanted to target certain individuals in a business, this is quite nice to do. And then kind of for a giggle, I did this. Now, is it going to work? This is the question. I wouldn't have stuck it in if it didn't work. Right, here we go. So we have a research and development person at Microsoft on Plenty of Fish, hunting for love, and I said this yesterday in my workshop. People like to be told that they're liked. People like to be told that people are impressed, they're happy with you. They love you, they want to be with you, they want to know you, they want to be your friends, they want to talk to you. And unfortunately, people on dating sites are probably at the absolute end of that requirement. And they will definitely be communicatable too. If you send requests to someone on a dating website and you make it interesting, they are definitely going to accept it. The one underneath really amused me, which is why I left it in. I used to be a director at Microsoft. That's quite it's not an active director, and I did find the fact that I had a 27 next to the name a bit interesting. I doubt 27-year-old is a director at Microsoft, but it still gives you an idea of the power of Google. So, here we go, dating sites make easy targets. Okay, now for some good news. You can use whatever tool you like for this, but my friend, I told him about the Google thing. I said, you don't have to authenticate with LinkedIn. You can just use a Google hack and then scrape that from your search engine directly. It doesn't touch LinkedIn. They touch LinkedIn, or however it works, I don't fully know. But anyway, it breaks. There's a legal requirement. Void. We're not doing anything wrong here. So, he releases that, Prowl 2. And if anyone's interested in looking it up, there's the link. And that's Matt Pickford, my mate. So, I communicated with him a bit, and there's a few things I wanted to tweak to make it even better, but it is better than it originally was. Right. Now going back to sort of, we'll carry on with reconnaissance. I discovered a tool called Fierce about 3 or 4 years ago, and I always used to be quite ignorant to DNS enumeration before. I used to find it a little bit boring. It's a really dreadful thing to say, but I did it because we used to have to. But I've kind of learned to love it over the more SE tests I've been doing, I've learned to realise that it's really vital. Part of SE engagements is to love domain name enumeration. For this reason, if I created a fake domain, but let's say this was a real person's domain, I used a tool called Fierce against their domain, what it'll do is, it'll look for zone transfers, which is very rare that you find. But if it doesn't find that, the next stage it does, by default, is to try and brute force all the other domains. Now, I see this sort of thing all the time. So you've got a domain name there with an IP address. I've obviously blurred it out for reasons, and I've changed the names for reasons. But if you look there, access, so instant access to me, Citrix. This person very likely has Citrix, and it's available to the internet. Well, that's good. That's probably going to give me a chance to get in if I've got a username and password. Mail. Oh, OWA or Office 365. Whee, we're away. Now, there's two types of Office 365 worth mentioning. Obviously, there's one that's in Microsoft Cloud. You're not going to get this on this. No, you're not. And there's the one where they can actually house themselves, and then you will get this. But secondly, as here, it's very likely to be OWA. And these two at the bottom, the SSL ones, I find generally are VPNs. Always better than a VPN. So you've got username and password, which I've discussed on lots of other talks before, but let's say you spoofed an email in, you put a UNC, always mix up my acronyms, a UNC, which is an SMB request into a hyperlink and said, click here to go on a date with this person, or click here because I like you, click whatever, and they click it, and they've got weak outbound firewall rules, so there's no 445 restricting access outbound, and you've got responder or SMB listener going on your remote server. That request is going to hit your box, and you're going to respond and say, send me your username, your domain name, and your password hash, and it's instantly going to do it. Also, I've discussed many times about browsing a website. You can put an SMB request into the index file of a website, so just browsing the website using IE with weak outbound firewalls as well, and the result you're getting their credentials. Now, can we crack the hashes? Yeah, there's a dictionary floating around called Rocktastic. That's all I'm going to mention on that subject. Right, and finally, I have to remember what I've done in this. Right. What is Office 365? Well, we all know what Office 365 is. Visually, it's beautiful. I really love the look of Office 365. I'm actually quite a Microsoft fan, which would surprise people. But they make really nice-looking things. And Office 365 is incredible from the point of view of functionality. It gives people access to everything. Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneDrive. Everything's there in one central point. All their old documents, the whole lot. By default, it doesn't use two-factor authentication. So again, if you get created, you've now got access to all their data. What do attackers want? What do nation-state attackers want? Data, anything that's interesting, anything that could embarrass the company or the target, anything that could cause trouble, but it's all there in Office 365. It's got a default of just single-factor authentication. So, by default, very vulnerable. It is also this, which I discovered while testing recently. I thought initially it was username enumeration it's vulnerable to, because when you put a person's username in and you put their domain name in, it'll get this error. Surprisingly, donkeyDonk@happyaaa.com is not on their system. And I was all like, oh, that's nice, that's username enumeration. It's not, I've got it wrong. It is domain name enumeration. So you can tell if a target's using Office 365 very easily by just slapping in their domain, any random username you like, just make that up. And if their domain name registers, the box goes like red for a little second, it's a little flicker across the top, and bang, it's good to go. You know that they are using Office 365. So it's just a nice, quick, cheap, easy way of enumerating whether they use it or not. Are there any questions at this point? This is good. We'll get through rapidly. Right, attack. My favourite phase. Okay, my favourite stage of an SE engagement. So, reconnaissance. I normally do a lot of what we call like 4+2 or 4+1s, which is like 4 days of testing and 1 day report or 2 days report, depending on how big the actual target is or the requirement. Now, reconnaissance is normally a day, and in that time I'll do all that email stuff. I'll spin up clones to their websites, I'll register domains, do all the other tricks to try and get around domain reputation. I will create simulated malicious payload documents and get all that good stuff done. And then we start this bit. Right, but as I've always shown in talks over and over again, all the fun stuff, just for once, let's have some really bad stuff. So let's just pretend for a second that your target, you initiate your first attacks against them, and you get nothing, absolutely nothing. Okay, let's pretend they are secure. So they're using anti-phishing security appliances. Great things, frustrate me royally, stop me a lot, or were stopping me a lot. So, directly, if you're just sending in an email, here's one that I use, with Word documents and a macro. If anyone came on the workshop yesterday, I talked about recruitment. Here's an example of a recruitment email that I use and works well when you can get the payload in. Encouraging them to find out more information on the attachment. Okay, but let's pretend they are using one of those and it instantly blocks, so it looks for PowerShell and words like that inside Word documents or use of macros, and it just blocks it. It just goes, no. You get absolutely nothing. You sit there, wait for your shell to come back and nothing comes at all. Okay, let's pretend they use domain reputation. So what domain reputation is the domain trusted? Has the domain name been on the internet for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? Have so many people clicked on it? Is it good? Is it a legit site? Now, on red teaming exercise, you'll create up a rubbish site, just a WordPress blog. You'll register the domain of your chosen target, and you'll leave that blog online for 30 days, 90 days, whatever. Just sitting there doing nothing, completely safe website. And then the day of your attack, you quickly swap it over to your website that you really want to use. It's just completely full of malware, or simulated malware. And of course it all works a treat because it's got reputation. Now on an SE test, this doesn't happen. You've got like a day to prepare or 2 days. So you're not going to get domain reputation. So that's going to fail. Classic credential harvester is going to fail. Interestingly, a throwaway comment worth putting in. With credential harvesting, don't just have a credential harvester. Put an SMB request and an image tag inside the index file. I've got videos on YouTube about that. So when your domain admins and IT teams just take a look at it, because they're too smart to put their creds in, you've still got a good chance of snagging their creds. Right. Let's forget SMB outbound is blocked. So my favourite, the SMB exploits. I really do love them. It's sad that the simple things really, really please me, but they don't. So that is not going to work. They're blocking 445 outbound on the firewalls correctly. Now, inbound firewall rules are always really tight. Well, MS17.010 is exploiting people over 445, so it indicates that people have actually got port 445 open on the outbound. So what that means is they're allowing people to use this service from the internet to their internal machines, which is incredibly dangerous considering that MS08 67, sorry for getting it, that would be a point of loss in the exam. But back in 2008, a worm went round, NetAppI, what's it called? Configure floated around, exploiting the SMB service. And it did about the same amount of damage as we're seeing now. So you'd have thought people would have filtered 445 on the outbound, on the inbound. But obviously they're not, because it's kind of all happened again. Now, flipping that firewall rule over, and then you've got your trusted side, to the outside. People often forget to firewall that off. So they have, let's say they have a restricted inbound, they forget about the outbound. And it is really, really common that you find this. And putting something like that in a hyperlink in an email with a click will work. But let's say they fixed it. Let's say they've done the firewall, they looked at the report last year, the report, and they thought, yeah, actually that's a good idea, let's get that firewall fixed. Easy, quick fix. Right, so what are we left with then? Well, a lot of techniques that I would use quite happily are not likely to use. So you've got classics like port scanning and mapping scans. I always do this as part of a social engineering engagement anyway, because I like to know the target I'm going against, have they got any really random ports open like SMTP 425, which is incredibly exploitable using something called internal relay. External relay is what email spammers use, and you can see that blocked on probably 90% of targets. Internal relay can be exploited from the outside, because you can use it, you can telnet into it, and you can use it to simulate an internal person, and then send that mail to all the internal users, and that bypasses Outlook's default security settings. So UNC, if you send an image in, embedded image in an email into an internal organisation, Outlook will go, no, that's wrong, click here for images. If you do it using SMTP, externally using internal relay as an exploit, it'll turn around and go, oh, it's all right, it's come from an internal source, I'm just going to just trigger it. So just opening that email, in viewing in preview, I believe, will trigger it. But anyway, let's get back to this, I'm going off track. Right, so they've got 18443 open on all their hosts. They're really secure, this is really, really good. So, well, that's if you're just doing one flavour, it's over, isn't it? If you're just doing SC, you're going to cry, that's it, they're secure, woohoo! Give them very strong on their security profile on the report. But that's not true, is it? You can't just turn around and go they're secure, because everything I would typically do is protected against. So SE is not always the answer. I'm a massive advocate of SE testing, but it isn't always the answer. And that's kind of when I initiated at the start, and now I'm getting to Samurai. This is where Samurai OS comes to. It's not an arrogance, so it is kind of arrogant in a way. But basically, a Samurai is someone who does everything, and not only does they attempt to do everything, they try and be very good at everything. And that's the point. I think as testers, testers for the whole community, we should be good at all flavours, possibly. We should try to learn other flavours, especially flavours you're not comfortable in. You should definitely try and learn. Right, so I've talked for a few years now, and I've never discussed this tool, which is shocking because I use Burp pretty much 3 or 4 times a week. I use it on internal testing, I use it on external testing, I use it during SC engagements, I use it all the time. So, how do we use Burp? Because Burp, obviously, people who don't know, is a web application proxy. It's generally considered to be used as a web application testing tool, and I think it's the best proxy out there. And it's also used for mobile phone testing, mobile phone app testing. But let's go back. So we go back to the reconnaissance stage, and we know that they're secure, and all the ports are all shut down, apart from 80 and 443. So we spotted that. Mail. So they got OpenUA open. Now, we haven't managed to snag any creds, so we can't log in. So what might we do? Now, this is a very easy to do exploit. Using Burp, you can't see the request here very well. You intercept it. What the proxy does, it allows you to intercept a web request. So you go to their portal, you put a username in, and you put a password in. And it's password with an exclamation mark on the end and a capital P. My friend told me to do this, and it does seem to, when people use the word password, it generally is with a capital P and an exclamation mark on the end. It just seems to be. Anyway, you intercept the request, and that is it blown up better so you can see. So you've got the destination, you've got the username, and you've got the password. And you scrape, using reconnaissance, all those email addresses you've scraped, you put them in as a payload. So where it says James Smith, that'll be your payload of all those names you've scraped. And you spray it against all their users. And you'll often find that'll log you in. That'll get you in, 1 or 2. Depends on how large, how many people there are. But it's another way to get in. But if you were just looking at SC, you would have ignored it. Right. SSL. So this is a VPN. It works exactly the same for the Cisco SSL VPNs. If they're using single-factor authentication and you've got a good username list, this is definitely another go-to. Once you've got an SSL VPN connection, I personally will test it on this way, generally in Windows, and then I'll move over to Kali, and I'll use the VPN on the command line on Kali, which instantly gives you connection to their network, and you can use all your Kali tools against them. So from nothing, from no creds whatsoever, to doing something like this, just using a bit of enumeration, you can get in. Right, so as I say again here, SE and reconnaissance and web app skills, quick wins. Right, so nation-state cyber attacks, are they sophisticated? Well, it's an interesting one. I've said this many times before, I don't think they are. I think we're giving far too much credit. So, Do nation-state cyber attacks do this? So do they brute force things? Well, there you go, there's the answer. So do they do these sort of techniques? Well, theoretically they do. A couple of weeks back, someone seems to be doing it against our government targets. This was interesting, an MP. Don't follow this MP. I just thought you could say, clearly I do not follow this MP. But his tweet was quite amusing. His follow-up one is this one where he mentions, I'm off to the pub. I thought it was quite amusing as well. But there you go. So he is tweeting out that he suspects it is potentially North Korea. Here we go. The sustained attacks began on Friday night, prompting officials to disable remote access to emails for their MPs. So they've got OWA open. And so they've obviously got single-factor authentication. Well, you can't verify that. They may not, but someone believed they didn't have single-factor authentication. It wasn't visibly obvious, and they've had a good brute force against them. Just for the record, multi-factor authentication doesn't always have a third option at the bottom. It doesn't always say username, password, and then PIN. That's kind of old school, actually. You're starting to see more often now it's username and password. And that password field, that second bit, that is where your two-factor authentication, where your single-time password goes. Right, so determined attacker on all accounts attempted to identify weak passwords. So someone was doing what I've just discussed. And there you go, there's the newspapers of it. I like media snippets. I really like the fact it's all on the front page at the moment, and they're fairly recent newspapers. Right, so let's look at something new. So I don't want to get too much into the concept of domain fronting. Domain fronting is the concept of, if your domain isn't trusted, you can't get people to browse it because it gets blocked. So how do you make it trusted? You use someone else's domain that is trusted, and you proxy the internet traffic to your site through them, and you use Google for that AWS. That's all very, very cool and technical, but it's not something I would normally do on a throwaway, couple of days sort of SE engagement. That's more for your red teaming when you've got a lot more time to prepare and prep for things. So I was chatting to my friend, and he said, Liam Hagan, he's not here, I think he's hungover. He's not here, is he? No, he'll be asleep. There's his Twitter, he's a very smart guy. He said, make them come to you. I was like, what the hell was this? And I did show this at my last talk, but I thought I'd do it again because it was actually really, really clever. So, okay, so what do we have not on the screen? Oh, there we go, come to life. Right, so what do we have here? How am I going to play that? Oh, I remember this from last year now. Right, so what I have here is a credential harvester, and it's based on OWA. But I didn't know what SharePoint Online particularly looks like, so I just used OWA, and I changed it to say SharePoint Online, and I put a SharePoint JPEG there. A lot of people think with like this sort of development, and this is development really, I suppose, ghetto development as my friend calls it, and that's be dead clever. I'll slap a JPEG on things if it's wrong. A lot of these sort of attacks are not as clever as you'd think. But, so, if they put their credentials in here, we'll see those in the Apache logs, in clear text. There's also UNC in there, so SMB request in the index file. So again, they've got weak outbound firewall rules and they're viewing it via IE. Or Edge, worth mentioning, Edge is just as vulnerable to this. Again, we're going to snag the creds that way. So that's nice, so we've got creds. But also then, once they press enter and they log in, is that playing? And it's doing nothing. Oh. There we go. Don't pause. Right, so we're logging in. And they are then greeted with this. Click to download your file. So they're doing that across the internet. So we're not emailing it into them. They're actually requesting it from you via their firewall, from their internet connection. And they open the Word document, and obviously that's loaded with whatever payload you want. So, make them come to you process, or principle. Right, but remember they do use domain reputation. So unfortunately this isn't going to work. Because the domain that you've spun up was 2 hours old, 4 hours old a day. So it's going to get blocked still. So you wait and wait and wait, and you get no shout. The reason I wanted to include that is it's a very clever idea. I really liked it. Okay. This is a little bit of a rant now. Probably shouldn't use this time for a rant, but what happened recently on Twitter, I saw this happen. I have my thoughts about social engineering pen test. Spoiler alert, I think it's a bad idea. Did anyone read this?
Yeah.
Did anyone like it?
No.
No, I agreed a little bit with it, But the majority of it, I don't want to badmouth someone here, the majority of it I didn't feel was accurate. I didn't think it was thought out. But my quick thoughts on this. Right, SE testing is the closest form of testing that replicates the real life. Obviously red teaming takes it to the next stage. But this is what real people do, and we're replicating that. So I'm a big advocate of all forms of testing, but I think this really shows you what is going on. Anyway, this is the person. Hi, my name is Jacob. That's who he works for, and this is what he does for a living. And he basically said, social engineering engagements, right, don't include social engineering engagements in pen tests, because it says at the top, this was his theory, most penetration tests target systems, but social engineering attacks people. And I thought about that. He's right. So you are targeting people. We're not attacking them. We're targeting them. But then I thought, internal testing. Well, the first thing I do on an internal test is turn up to site. I'm going to fire a responder. And that listens to broadcasts, and you get hashes, and then you reverse the hashes. Now, what's that actually exploiting? It is exploiting broadcast traffic and misconfigured protocols. But also, it's exploiting people because it's weak password choices. Because it's the weak password choices are the ones that you can reverse. So in essence, it's targeting people. So I think his argument's almost void immediately. And then he was like, social engineering attacks don't produce useful results. Well, just say that to AP28, who in theory made, I think it was like 600 million a couple of months back. It does do results. And secondly, don't say to the DNC that it doesn't do results, because it clearly does. Social engineering replicates the real world. Right, so that's my rant over. But what I'm going to do now is sort of spin back to the concept of make them come to you and look at something new. So domain reputation is going to get you there, it's going to block you, so we're not going to get payloaded. So let's have a look at something new. Now this kind of concept was sort of discussed on Don's and Vince's talk a minute ago, and I did think, oh, you've given away my crown jewels. But I'm going to do it again anyway, because I'm quite happy about it. Here we go, we're going to go with a different track. We're going to hit this one. Will the Facebook right? So you've secured everything in your internal network correctly. No outbound weak firewall rules. Nothing can be compromised. You've got every appliance you could think of. You've bought the boxes. You've configured them. You've even got the team. It's all configured right. And then you allow them access to the internet, and they go on Facebook. Okay, so how can you use it? You can't ignore it. It's wrong to ignore it. It can be exploited. So let me show you. Right, I want to pause it if I can. Remember last time, do not pause videos. But quickly what we've got here. So, we've got Mr. Target down here. He's obviously very cute and nice, soft, fluffy target. I respect the targets. And at the bottom, we've got Mr. Bad Person, which is Batman punching someone. So there's Batman, all together, and there's Good Person. And what we're using the chat feature of Facebook. It's saying hello, 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 and they're replying to each other. Right, what happens then is, can I send you a file? Yes, I can. You know where this is going. Can I send you a Word document with simulated payload in it? Yes, you can. So there you go. It's received it. So your internal network is really, really secure. They've just bypassed using Facebook. Interestingly, you get Facebook domain there. So that file in theory has come from Facebook source. You open it. You trigger it. And then you get a reverse shell. Or reverse connection, sorry. So I think that's quite an interesting area. I think we're burying our heads in the sand if we're not saying that these websites that are multifunctional cannot be used to exploit. And if you were to, let's say, spin up a recruitment profile and put some nice pictures on it saying, yeah, I know, not happy in your job, come to me. And then you targeted 50, 60 people of an organisation. You can use Google Hacks. Where I did it for LinkedIn, just change that to Facebook and you'll find their profiles. And you find that if you target 30 or 40 people on Facebook, 15, 12 people might accept your friend request. Once they've accepted your friend request, more people accept your friend request because obviously you're legitimate because my friend is friends with you. And it goes on and on and on. And if you're a recruitment, you're going to send someone a Word document. Are you interested in this role? Yes, I am. Send me the information. You asked for it. So it's definitely an area that is very, very exploitable. Right, so Facebook can be used. Okay, so that bypasses domain reputation and anti-phishing appliances. Okay, so do people trust strangers? I sort of discussed this earlier, but here's my chart of do they trust. LinkedIn. If you try and send friend requests to people on LinkedIn, not that I'm suggesting I know this from experience, they come quite iffy to you quite quickly, or they won't accept your requests, or they're not interested, or they just block you. If you go to Facebook, yes, people will accept you. Not a massive amount, but people accept you. Plenty of fish, yeah, fishing with dynamite. No, that's the bottom one. Easy. And then Ashley Madison and sites like that. Yeah. They're going to accept everything you send them. Right. So, the final act, and this is when it's closing and coming to the end, and I apologise, it's a little bit shorter than I ever talked, but it's hard to keep producing this stuff. Right. So, how can we fight these attacks? And I've never discussed this in my talks before, and so many people afterwards have come over to me and said individually, how do you fight against this? And all my colleagues have said, why the hell don't you talk about this? So it is time to do it. So we've got the defence in depth, or the castle approach. If everyone's not, I'm going to take for granted everyone understands what this means, but basically you have security, varying layers of security, and if you implement it all together and chain it together, in theory it should make your internal organisation even more secure. And it's not a new process or principle, and we should be using it. Right, this is something I get all the time. I want to know who clicked on it. I need to know which users I can, that's a swear word, which users I can tell off. And that's so wrong, it's unreal. It's completely the reverse of what this testing is all about. People are very, very quick to blame people. The reality is, how did the email get to that person initially? How did that malicious website get to that person? How did your person, who's not an IT savvy, they don't spend their entire life doing social engineering or red team engagements, how did that person get to a position where they could get compromised? Now, if you have done everything you can in the castle kind of approach of security in depth before that, and then they still do it, and they've had the training, and the follow-up training, then you can possibly consider saying to that person, come on, what are you doing? This is stupid, you've done this twice now. But really, if you're using, you should be using anti-phishing security appliances. I'm not going to mention vendors, it's not what I'm here to do. You should be using it, and obviously that will block a lot of things like your payloads, your macros, and stuff like that. Now, you can get around them, but don't use that as an excuse not to have one of these. You need one, and you just have to, this is the defence in depth. You know that people will get around it, but if you haven't got it, you've got nothing to, you can't talk really, because you need these sort of appliances to at least start to protect you. Office macros. They should be disabled, really, unless they use them in a day-to-day job, unless they're in accounts or something like that, or I can't really think off the top of my head which other departments might need macros. But unless they need macros, why are they enabled? Why is this functionality there? I talked a lot last night to people. Why is PowerShell on people's machines? Who here thinks having PowerShell on everyone's machine is a bit of a bad idea? That's the majority of people. You don't need it on everyone's machine. You can still administer people's machines with PowerShell. As an admin, you can have it on your machine, just don't stick it on everyone else's machine. PowerShell is incredible, and I've really, really picked it up and championed it. The last 6-7 months, I was very slow to get on the bandwagon of PowerShell. I found it quite scary and horrible to use. But no, now I absolutely love it. And next year, a bit of an advert, I will be talking about insider threats, and I will be showing how lethal it is. But if they don't need it, take it off the machine. Uninstall services that aren't required. Enforce protective mode. Don't protective mode on Word documents. Make sure it is enforced. All this can be done with group policy, so it can definitely be configured. Restrict outbound traffic. I see this a lot where people haven't restricted outbound traffic, and SMB exploits work really well, and it works against people who should know better, people who sell networking kits, and they should definitely know better, and it works against them as well. So, configure your firewalls correctly. Use a scene. If you're not receiving log files and you're not collating them correctly and setting them to alert on triggers that match potential attacks, you've got no idea really what's going on. And I'm not here to sell seams, but you need people who know what's doing with this. You need in-house people, or you need to outsource this to people who know what they're doing. Antivirus, host-based IPS, host-based firewalls. And people turn the Microsoft firewall off. They turn off user access control, UAC, not UNC, UAC. And I was doing a quick test yesterday with one of my colleagues, Ben Turner, who's not here, is he? No. And we both concluded that while it can be bypassed trivially, you still need it on. It's annoying, it does a pop-up, but it does stop some things. Right, and security training. And security training isn't necessarily your employees, direct employee, it is your IT teams. Get your IT teams tested, trained up, get them to know about ethical hacking, get them to know about tools, get them to use this stuff in-house, get them to be using Bloodhound, Kerberos, get them to be looking for groups XML, get them to be using Death Star. these are, I'm ranting again, but I know, I've come from a background of support a long time ago, and if I attempted to use Bloodhound while I was working in support, I'd have been fired. It was straight up, you're a hacker, you're using hacking tools, you're out. No. We need to start training our internal employees to use this stuff and regularly use it. Vulnerability scanning, I'm not a massive fan of vulnerability scanning, but at least let someone in the organisation use it. Just so you've got an idea of what patching is, what's going on with patching and stuff. Right, this is groups XML. I don't know why I included this as a slide, it doesn't really go with this, but if you were to look for it, that's your location on your domain controllers where it is. Now, groups XML is an XML file that generally has the local administrator username or the domain admin account with the password hash, which is AES 256, I believe, encrypted. So how can we unencrypt that? Well, Microsoft released the key, and by releasing the key, by releasing the key, it was a bad day. You can look it up on Microsoft as well. It's on the website still. It's like you thought. Well, to be fair, you've let it out. Once you've let it out, you've let it out. But they released it, so bad day, and we can reverse it. And it's built into so I use the one in Metasploit, but I just go to the directory and run it directly from there with Ruby, and it takes normally about a minute to reverse. It's always think it should be instant. Everything else is instant, generally reversing these sort of things. But it's not, it just takes about a minute. But there you go, in clear text you see the password, and it can be that long, and it can be made up of gibberish characters with spaces, and it makes no difference. If you can get that file, that group's XML document, or any of these other XML documents, someone's getting hold of credentials they shouldn't be getting hold of. And then educate your employees. At that point, then you want to go to your wider teams and say, these are examples of real attacks. These are what real attackers do. This is why you don't want to let them do it. These are the amounts of money and these are the businesses that have been destroyed because of these attacks. You don't want that on your own conscience. And secondly, you want to be protecting yourself and protecting your family. So start to educate in a friendly, constructive, kind of a good manner, a good way. Right. That is me on Twitter, and at 41 minutes, I think that's enough. I am done. Are there any questions? Thank you. Oh, no, there's a question.